everybody, my name is Sylvain Rochon and I'm getting people to expand their human experience using cutting-edge technology. I'm back from holidays. I haven't done a video in a little bit over 2 weeks, I think. I had a wonderful visitor at my home, enjoying my time. Didn't have any time to do any videos, and because of traveling and just enjoying time with the visitors. And as you can tell, it's pretty hot still here. A little bit sweaty, but still pretty comfortable. During my holiday, I kept gathering more research. I kept reading, since I had access to emails and the internet and these things. So I was able to accumulate, and I had huge amounts of new information and articles that I can't wait to share with you, because there's a lot of amazing thing going on all the time. And now my list is so big because I've missed 2 weeks, almost 2 weeks of videos. And you may have noticed as well, I've been doing an experiment around the impact of meditation to make peace, or at least reduce aggressivity, for about 30 days. So I've been doing a little videos around that. And YouTube, not YouTube, Facebook and Twitters. And I'm doing some measurements, and I'll probably talk about that in a couple of weeks once I finish the 30 days and I get to look at the data and see what kind of impact I've had by myself. So we'll see how that turns out. But right now I want to talk about this. Like, cancer is, Jesus, the number 1 or number 2 cause of death in North America, along with heart problems. So it's a pretty big thing, and most people think cancer is a disease, as in like it's a single thing. It's not a virus, it's not a bacteria, it's mutations that occur in cells. And you have a lot of different cells, and mutations can occur at different locations in the genetic code of the different cells. Ultimately, cancer is always a mutation that somehow causes cells to uncontrollably multiply. And that's what causes cancers and issues and things like that. Not cancers, tumors, like growths, because the cells just keep dividing. But the problem is, these are your own cells, for one. And also, different tissues look differently from a molecular point of view. And the mutation can be at a lot of different locations. So you can't just blanket treat it like you treat, for example, a flu or any other disease. You actually have to have strategies that either like kind of shotgun things like chemotherapy, for example, or you need to kind of create different types of treatments that will target different types of cancers. And that's what we've been working on a lot in the last amount of time. And so I'm going to talk about some of the newer treatments that fell on my desk that I think are really interesting. And these are just tools in the toolbox for the doctor. There's no all-encompassing treatment for cancer. We may get there, and I have hope that we'll figure it out with more advanced treatments. And I almost thinking about intelligent treatments. Well, we'll see about that, but for the time being, we have really cool things. But before I get to that, one part of surviving cancer is early diagnosis. And so we've also had some pretty interesting technologies and companies working on ways to detect cancer much more earlier. For example, pancreatic cancer is a big problem, and usually it's detected in clinics by looking at discoloration in the white of the eyeball. But once you start seeing, like at home, there's a problem with, like, your eyes are a weird color, your cancer is pretty advanced if the cause is pancreatic cancer. But devices like cameras can detect differences in colors and shades of white and yellows much more subtly than yourself. So some app makers actually created an app where you can just kind of look at your smartphone's camera. There's an app installed and all that stuff. You do that first, and it's going to tell you if there's a good chance you have pancreatic cancer by doing the measurement. You can't see the color difference, but it will. And they have about a 96% success rate at identifying pancreatic cancer. And pancreatic cancer is really nasty, usually like very low survival rate, because usually it's caught very, very late. Now, if you catch it early, then you have all the toolbox of different treatments that are available to you and your doctor to treat it way before you're too far ahead. Now, two of my friends actually died from pancreatic cancer specifically in the last 10 years. But pretty nasty stuff. Now, the second diagnosis tool that I found really interesting is like a pen-like device that where you press on different tissues, for example, like it could be on the skin, and if it touches normal skin or cancer skin, it does a little test. Takes a few minutes, very, very short, and it tells you on a display normal or cancer. Very, very simple. Now it's currently being used mostly in testing and deployment in the surgeon's hands, because when they try to, one of the ways to get cancer out is to cut out the tumor. But if there's just a few cells left of the tumor, you don't get it all out, then the cancer grows again because you still have cells that can just continue to divide uncontrollably. So this tool is really useful for surgeons. You try to get all the tumor out, then you can kind of poke around and see if there's more cancer, and if you're not sure, you poke it with the pen. That increases the chances that surgeons will remove the whole tumor. And of course, I'm thinking this kind of tool, although it's probably a little bit expensive because of what's inside with a mass spectrometer and all that stuff, it could potentially eventually end up in clinics or even in some people's homes, where you can test yourself with whatever available piece of skin or flesh you have and see if this new weird spot is cancerous and detect yourself. Now, as far as treatments are concerned, because that's almost the most important thing. I prefer talking about diagnosis because early diagnosis means you have like huge amounts of tools. Late diagnosis is really bad. But anyway, treatment is always more tools for treatment is always good. One way that we've been dealing with cancer is using viruses, like the Zika virus is the latest virus. The doctors, the researchers have been experimenting with, modifying it to target specific cells. In this case, the Zika virus actually targets typically neuroprogenitor cells that are generating new brain cells. And it just so happens that glioblastomas, which is a very hard to remove or to deal with a type of neural cancer, like a brain cancer, actually uses those specific cells to grow. So using modified Zika virus, actually these researchers were able to target and eliminate in mice, not on humans just yet, but in mice, remove the glioblastoma. And that's not even a tumor. Well, it is a tumor, but it's like a spider web. You can't remove it with a scalpel. It's impossible. So it's more about the Zika virus targeting specifically the cancerous versions of those progenitor cells and killing them so that the brain cleans itself from the inside without the need of a knife. So that's really cool. And there's a lot more advancements in research that needs to be done before it goes out in clinical trial, but it's pretty advanced and it's very exciting. And there's a bunch of tactics for different kinds of tumors that are being researched using different types of viruses that are modified, again, to target specifically the cancer cells that are affecting a certain tissue. And this type of research is very, very cool, needs to be encouraged. You don't need to have any chemicals involved in your body. You just let the virus kind of do its job, like pinpoint target the bad cancer cells and leaving all the normal cells the way they are, because you need them. Now, the last little bit of treatment that I really liked is using gold nanoparticles. This is not a new thing, but this team of researcher has changed the geometry of it, and combined with immunotherapy, which is fairly common It's basically boosting the immune system of the person for it to fight the cancer on their own. So a good treatment. We can still do that, but they combine it with injecting nanoparticles that have a certain geometry to them inside the body and like near the tumors. And these tumors are these nanoparticles will tend to gravitate and concentrate a lot more in the tumorous areas because the vascularization around the tumor areas is more open for these pretty big particles to move into. And then using lasers to target specifically the tumors, they heat up the gold particles. And the cells are pretty fragile at that scale. The gold particle kind of heats up because of the laser, it breaks up the cell. So you can actually kill the cancer cells by passing a laser. It's not a burning laser. It's more of like it just generates extra heat. And if it hits the cells that has the gold particles, then it heats too much for the cell to handle. So normal cells that feel the heat, let's say, of the laser on its own, they remain unmolested and healthy. But the cancer cells, because they have the gold particles associated, just heat up and bubble up and get destroyed. So you can essentially, using a laser, once you have the immunotherapy in there, and you have the gold particles inserted, you can essentially just kind of burn out the tumor without risking burning the normal cells around it. So that's really a cool tool for those tumors that cannot be removed with a scalpel. Some of them are too small or in small little bits, and then lasers can be extremely fine. Anyway, that's all I have for now, but I'm very encouraged at the progress we're seeing with different cancer treatments and diagnosis tools. I mean, hell, if we can identify our own cancers in our homes using apps and little pen devices and things just to check ourselves, and we have way more and better non-chemotherapy tools that the doctors can use, we're much better off, and we can survive cancer, and we need not be afraid of it. I even talked about a few weeks ago about an age-related treatment. It's a treatment for aging, but essentially it keeps young the systems within our body that fixes mutations. So you can keep cancer rates at a much lower rate. And combined with all the other tools, we can manage our health and manage this beast that is called cancer more and more, and of course be less and less afraid of it at the same time. So all good stuff. And that's going to be it for me this week. And well, tune in for next week. I'll have something else to show you. Certainly not biomedical. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but it's going to be more computers, mechanical, or artificial intelligence. I know you guys love that stuff, and I do too. I'm going to catch you next time. Ciao for now.